Thanks, Jenny. Is this on? Doesn't sound like it's on. Sound booth? Is that wireless going to work? What do we think? All right, we might use the good old-fashioned microphone. Can you hear me now? All right, I'm actually going to stand down here. I hate being on a stage. Thanks, Jenny, for a nice introduction. My name's Michelle Hagee, and I'm CEO of Desatel Hagee Communications. We're an integrated public relations and marketing firm. And today, what I want to talk with you about is branding. Now, branding is a thing that we do in marketing and communications for sure, for companies, but branding is what you are all doing as a part of your job search. So we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about that, and we'll make it fun. So this is just a slide about what we do. In public relations and marketing, our work is really about influencing people, building reputation, helping organizations and companies tell their story. We help them to overcome challenges sometimes. We do employee relations, and it's really an audience-based practice, right? So we're looking at what kind of messaging or branding do we need to get to connect with different kinds of audiences. Well, what I would tell you is this is what you're doing in a job search. You're doing exactly what we do as a firm. So what's a brand? Okay, that's a term that people use for lots of different things. People sometimes think that's a logo, or they know it's an idea behind a company. But because we're on a university campus and you're all bright students today, we're going to start with a quiz. Who's that? What do they stand for? Okay, what else? What else do they stand for? This is like cool style, right? Affordable style. This isn't Walmart, right? You don't go to Target to just get cheap stuff. You go because they have cool designers, they have innovative products, but they have them at a good price, right? They're trying to differentiate from just being a low-priced provider of goods. And I would say their major competitor is probably Walmart. They're trying to differentiate, and they've done that in some creative ways. Who's that? What does Apple stand for? Apple did a very interesting thing, which is they developed what we call in our industry a point of view about computers that was totally different from what existed in the marketplace. Apple says to us, computers aren't just technology, computers are lifestyle, right? We're going to make computers and other mobile devices so fun, so cool, so stylish that you're going to make that a part of your lifestyle. Was Microsoft doing that at the time? Was Dell doing that at the time? No. This was really new and innovative, and it differentiated Apple from its competitors. Who's that? Come on, yogis in the audience. This is Lululemon, yeah? What does Lululemon stand for? Yeah? Yoga wear that can be worn to work. That's true, that's true. This is about, Lululemon is a brand about individuality. They're a brand about connecting with you and your fitness goals. Has anybody been in a Lululemon store? What do they talk to you about? Like they race right up and engage with you. Anybody have a conversation in a Lululemon store? They don't talk about their products. They talk about you and what kind of workouts you do. They want to know, do you do bar? Do you do yoga? Oh, where do you do it? What do you like? They're automatically engaging you about your goals and about your fitness and your style as a way to make a connection, a deeper connection, right? So what does all of that tell us? Companies brand for some very good business reasons, right? It's fun and it gets our attention, but really they want to tell you what they stand for. They want to connect with you. They want to cultivate authenticity and consistency so that every time you experience them, you experience the same thing again and again and again, right? That builds trust. They want to be relevant, and they want you to pay more. They want you to choose them, right? When I go into Walgreens and I look at the shelf of pain reliever and I can pick Advil or I can pick Walgreens brand for $2 less, they want me to pick Advil. It's the same thing, right? It's the same ingredients, but they want me to associate something with that brand that makes me be willing to pay $2 extra, right? That's a good business objective. And that's because we are all, it works, right? We're all affected by that. So those companies that are doing a good job with their brand do a good job in keeping us as customers and retaining us, and it makes us willing to sometimes go to more trouble to buy their products or be involved with them. This is your job search. It's a crowded marketplace, right? And what do you have to do, right? There's a lot of job candidates to choose from. It's like the shelves of a grocery store. There's a lot of options. What we want to do is to stand out, right? We want our employer of choice to walk down that aisle and pick you out of all of those choices that exist. So this concept, a strong brand, and as you think about it in your own context, does these three important things. It helps employers to identify who we are and what we do, just like Coca-Cola that's instantly identifiable for you. You know that's what that stands for. You know what that is. It helps us differentiate. It helps us stand out. And so when you see the Starbucks logo, you know what kind of coffee that is, and you know how it's different from somebody else's coffee or products. And then a good brand creates an emotional connection. We want to be a part of that company. We want to be a part of that company so badly that we'll wear their t-shirt or we'll shave their logo onto the back of our heads because we care that much about that association. So how does this relate to you and entering the job market and thinking about what kind of company or organization that you might want to be a part of? You have a brand. You have a brand whether you work on it or not. And this is an important concept because companies do too, and not all companies do a good job working on their brand. But the reason this is an important concept for you is that you have a similar job to do. You want to connect with your target audience, right? Your employer of choice or a great company or organization that you ultimately want to be a part of. And you want to beat the competition. You want to stand out from the crowd of applicants or the stack of resumes. You want to differentiate yourself. So this concept and what I'm going to forward to you as an idea about how you convey your brand in a job search will help you do these things. It will help you stand out of the stack of resumes. It will help you build relationships. People hire people, they don't hire resumes. So that personal relationship and your interaction, how an employer experiences you, is very important. And it'll help you communicate. It'll help you convey your promise of value. That's what a brand is. It's a promise of value. Your promise of value is what you're going to help a company or an organization achieve, how you're going to make a team stronger. So what are the elements of your personal brand as you think about your career? It's all of these things. It's your values. What do you care about? Are you a person who has high integrity? Are you a great team player? Do you really care about people, and do you demonstrate that in how you work? Your strengths. Are you a great writer? Are you an engineer? Are you a super critical thinker? Do you have a super great work ethic? What are your strengths as a job candidate that I would care about? Your elevator pitch. You should have an elevator pitch. Just like you think of a company being able to articulate what it's about, what it's doing in quick 30-second soundbite, you should be able to articulate your strengths as a job candidate in that same kind of soundbite. And then tailoring for the audience. What's in it for the audience? We call it in marketing the whiffy or the whiffum. What's in it for me? Right? When you're meeting with a prospective a prospective employer, why should they care? What are you offering to them, and how can you make that connection? So this is an example. It's a little bit hard to read. I'll read it to you. This is an example of an elevator pitch. I used to teach a class at Gonzaga, and it was sort of the how to get a job class for public relations majors. And I had an assignment where I made everyone write their own elevator pitch. People really struggled with this. It's a hard thing to do. But I thought this was a great one that somebody wrote. My passion is journalism. With my degree in communications and through the dozens of articles I've written, I'm really able to tell stories. I'm someone who hits the ground running and knows how to manage deadlines without cutting corners. Ethics and integrity are a very important part of how I operate. So that elevator pitch is telling me what the strengths of this person are, right? What their unique selling point is, what they can do really well. It's telling me some of their attributes or intangibles that employers are looking for, right? Of course, we want people to learn fast on the job. We want, in my business, deadlines. We're all about deadlines. Deadlines are critically important. So I want to know that a candidate coming in can manage deadlines. And then values. This person is telling me that they really care about operating out of an integrity value. So that's great. That's what I want. Those are the kinds of people I want on my team. So that's a great example of a quick summation of an elevator pitch. What else? What are the other elements of your brand when you're job searching? Business cards. You should have a business card when you're job searching. That might be something that the university can help you with. If not, there's a lot of places online where you could get business cards really inexpensively. But the whole goal in positioning yourself in a job search is not to position yourself as a student or as a graduate, but as a professional. And professionals have business cards. So important part of how you make an impression. Your resume. I'm going to talk a little bit more in a follow-up slide here about resumes. But your resume is often your first impression with an employer, right? Everybody knows, especially with big companies, this is all online. You have to submit your materials to a website. You don't get to talk to anybody. The only thing they see, the only way that you're represented to them in the start is the paper that you send them or the electronic document, the PDF that you send them. It's critically important. The cover letter, right? A tailored cover letter that articulates your elevator pitch and helps you stand out is another one of those first impressions and maybe the first thing that a prospective employer is going to see. And frankly, they're going to make a decision based on that paper. So they're going to cut people out of that realm in the paper process before they go to interviews. So they're going to be making decisions based on that piece of paper. Your portfolio. So in my industry, candidates come in, or they should come in, with a portfolio of work from classes and from internships. So I want to see newsletter articles. I want to see web copy they've written. I mean, these may be assignments, but it shows me that they've done the kinds of things that my company does. And it shows me high quality work, or it should. So other industries use portfolios as well. And then following up. That's your behavior, right? That's your action, but it's also your values in action. How do you follow up with a company? Do you send a thank you card? Do you follow up with an email promptly? Do you provide something promptly that was missing from your packet? That's another piece of your brand. It's how they experience their interaction with you, and it shapes their opinion of you as a candidate. Social media. I know others have talked already about this. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but you have an online brand, and your online brand is what anybody can find out about you when they type your name into Google. So manage that well, be aware of that. And then in my profession, we ask in interviews, well, of course we would want you to have a LinkedIn account and be using that, be building a network through LinkedIn, which is a professional networking tool. And then we would want to know, in my profession again, are you on Twitter? Who do you follow on Twitter? What kinds of online conversations are you participating in? What's interesting to you? What kinds of trends in social media are you following? So that's not relevant to all industries, but in any kind of in the communications field, it's important to be conversant about that and have something to say in an interview about that. So I want to talk about some practical tips as someone who has hired a lot of people over time and done a lot of interviewing of candidates and also used a lot of interns and hired a lot of interns in our firm over 17 years. I'm going to give you some practical tips about job searching and about your materials from my viewpoint as someone who's looked at a lot of these materials and made decisions based on these materials. So I talked a little bit about the portfolio. Again, anything that you can use to show your skills in action and to show your skills being applied in a workplace setting. Again, remember, your positioning should be as a professional, and that's hard when you're just out of school, right? Because you don't have all of the job experience yet. That's what you're trying to gain, but you have internship experience, hopefully. You might have volunteer experience. You have things that you've done that you can show me that position you as a professional in my field, and that's what I want to see. The cover letter and resume. You've probably heard this before, but it's really true. If I get a cover letter that says, "Dear Madam," if I get a cover letter or a resume that has typos or grammatical errors in it, I throw it away. What that tells me is that that applicant didn't care enough about the job with my company to proofread and to find out the name of the right person at our company to submit a letter to. So know how important that is. I think people take that for granted, especially when you're in a job search where you're cranking out, and I did this too, cranking out a lot of cover letters and applying for a lot of different jobs. One of the things I did is I had 4 versions of my resume. I had a resume that emphasized public relations. I had a resume that emphasized event planning. I had a resume that emphasized marketing, and I used those resumes for the right kind of job that I was applying for, and I always tailored my objective, and I always tailored my cover letter. I can tell when someone's cranking out tons of cover letters, and there's nothing unique in the cover letter to me. And I also can tell when someone writes a cover letter and says, "I'm applying for this job with Dusatel Hagee Communications because I'm really impressed by your reputation in the region, and I've looked at your client list, and I think it would be a great opportunity to work with clients like Avista and the Kalispel Tribe and Itron and Healing Lodge." That's a candidate who went to my website. That's a candidate who knows something about our company. That impresses me. That person gets in the yes pile for an interview. So those kinds of things really matter, and that's a place to spend energy and time, especially for the jobs that you really want. Related experience. People always will ask me, well, I'm just out of school, I don't have experience, how do I show that? Think about the things, your assignments, the things you've done in classes, things you've done in internships, things that you've done maybe in other parts of your life that are relevant and connect the dots for me. People who are looking through hundreds of resumes don't have time to connect the dots themselves. You have to make that really easy for them. You have to make sure that your materials clearly outline your relevant experience and what you're going to bring to their company, how you're going to move their company forward, what kind of team member you're going to be. Specialized skills, oh my gosh, highlight those. You studied abroad, you've got a language, you're in communications, but you have a real passion for IT, and you know a lot about that. Those are things that employers want to see. So any kind of specialized skill you want to highlight. Writing ability, really for any kind of job, is important, and you want to show that. And then attitude, right? That's one of those intangible things. It's hard to convey on a resume, but those are things you can do in your cover letter or in your objective. Remember that elevator pitch and what that was able to communicate to a prospective employer about those intangibles, about work ethic, about tenacity, about problem-solving skills, right? I can train you how to do something specific in my industry, but I can't train for those intangibles. Those are the things, for me, that are the most important things to hire for. Those attitudes, the teamwork piece, your commitment, right? I want candidates who are committed, who are going to go the extra mile. So those are all important things to convey in your materials. During the interview, right, you've probably heard this before too, but it's really true, do your homework. I have actually interviewed people who said to me, now could you tell me what your company does? Yeah, that candidate is not moving forward. In fact, they shouldn't have gotten an interview. That tells me that that candidate, again, didn't care enough, about the job with my company to look at our webpage. Okay, not someone you'd want on your team. Know the industry, right? I'm going to ask you, what are some trends that you're looking at? What kinds of publications have you read in the industry? What kinds of thought leaders are you interested in? So if you're going into a particular kind of engineering, those are all things that you want to be familiar with, right? You want to be familiar with some of the professional journals or magazines. You want to be able to speak to some of the trends. I mean, some of that you're in the best position to know because you've been in classes and you've been working with professors who are doing research, and so you have access to a lot of that. Use that to show your knowledge. Highlight how your skills help us. Again, I've also had people in interviews talk a lot about what they want. I want work-life balance, and I want to do projects where I can work as with a team, and I want to get these different kinds of experience. Well, I'm interested in that, but really more so, I'm interested in how you're going to help my company. And so know that that's what an interviewer is thinking. They're wondering, how is this candidate going to help me be successful or move my company forward? And so make that easy for them. That's how you want to articulate your strengths and what you can bring, right? How you can be a successful part of that team. And then always ask intelligent questions. Too many people give up that opportunity in an interview when you say, well, what are your questions for me? Again, if I have a candidate who says, I don't have any questions, that makes me think, they didn't take the time to think about some intelligent things that they could ask me about. So I love getting questions in interviews like, well, tell me about your vision for the next 5 years for your company. Where are you headed? Or I love to get the question, what makes someone successful at Desautels Hagee? What are the key things that make a successful employee for you? And then that opens up a whole area for us to dialogue about, and it gets me excited as an interviewer about a candidate. Being creative in tough times. I graduated in the early 90s in a recession and looked for a job for a long time in my field. I will tell you, my first job out of college was at Nordstrom, not in communications. So I've been through this, and I understand that you have to be creative. You're not always in a field where there's huge demand for you right when you graduate. So informational interviews are a key piece of doing a great job search. That's literally just looking at leaders in the field that you want to go into, emailing them or calling them, and asking them for 15 minutes of their time for an informational interview to talk about their industry in your area. I get these calls all the time. I always say yes. And what it does is it allows someone to come in and make a personal connection. Give me their resume, ask me questions about the communications field or the advertising field in Eastern Washington, ask me about who's hiring. Almost always in one of those meetings, I end up connecting that person with other people who I know. So that's a powerful way to build a personal network. This may not be true in all fields, but in my field, a lot of good jobs in Spokane never hit the paper, never hit the web. They are filled through personal connections. The first thing I do when I'm hiring is put an email out to my friends. Anybody have a great intern right now? Anybody know of a really highly qualified candidate? So just know that word of mouth is really critical. And in those interviews, you always want to ask, who else? Who else should I talk to? Who else could I approach for an informational interview? So that's a great and underutilized job search tool. Find creative offers. One of the trends right now is that companies are, for a lot of reasons, are hiring more contract workers, more temporary workers, and fewer full-time workers. View that as an opportunity. It's an opportunity to get a contract with a company and to prove your greatness. Companies are always looking for talent, and so I can tell you from my own experience that when we bring interns in, we always bring them in with an eye to, could this person be a part of our company in the future? And we've frequently hired them. We also last year hired someone on a contract basis. We hired someone for a 6-month contract, and she did such a great job. At the end of that contract, we offered her a permanent position. So those kinds of positions are great opportunities to get a foot in the door. Freelance work as well, because it allows you to prove your skills. And internships. We've had more people in the last few years look for internships even after they're done with their degree. It's still a great way, again, to get exposure if you can do it. I realize not everyone can do that. I didn't do internships when I was an undergrad because, probably like many of you, I was working my way through school and I couldn't work for free. So it's a balance, but it's a good thing to be looking at. And it's really a trend, especially in my field. We always see people with at least 2 internships under their belt. So I think I've already talked about that. You've got a lot of great resources right here at Eastern for internships. Please utilize those. Please utilize your Career Center. They've got all kinds of great resources for you that really matter, and they can help get you connected with professionals in your field as well. And there's also some other organizations in communications, and this is true as well in accounting and in the medical fields and in really all career fields. Look at the professional group in the area that you're looking for a job. There's all kinds of professional groups that you can go to as a guest. You can meet professionals in that field, and it's a good way to network. So I'm going to end with just a little bit of kind of current research on what employers are looking for and what some of the hiring trends are in 2014. So I talked about this a little bit. Companies are cautious, right? The economic recovery has not been as fast as we all would have liked. So employers are hiring, but they're hiring a lot of part-time and contract workers, and that probably will continue. That's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to get a foot in the door and to get started. So I think that, don't shy away from that. STEM, you've all heard that, but STEM occupations are growing. In fact, in Washington State, I know we're one of the biggest job creators in the STEM field, yet we're like 46th in the country in terms of STEM graduates. So there's this terrific gap. And at any given time, I know Microsoft has, like 7,000 jobs they can't fill. So there's a lot of opportunity there. The skills gap, people are looking for more and more specialized skills. So that's an important thing. And as you're looking at graduate education or education beyond your undergrad degree, that's an interesting thing to look at. What kinds of specialized skills are really the most desirable in the marketplace right now? There is a movement among companies to bring offshore jobs back onshore, so that's good for all of us. And then in 2014, what they're predicting is that sales and IT are going to be the top two, recruited positions and see the most compensation growth. So if you're in either of those job areas, those are good opportunities. This all was part of the CEO from Career Builder does an annual forecast about trends, and those are things that he's listing. So what do employers really want? You'll notice that none of these bullet points are about a specific technical skill. And it's true that they want those things, and of course they want experience in their industry, but they also want all of these things, right? They want someone who works well in a team, and so that's a great thing to highlight, teams that you've been a part of in your resume and in your materials. They want a decision maker and a problem solver, right? They want people with good analytical skills, good critical thinking skills on their teams. So again, how can you demonstrate in your materials and in your interviews that you've done those things successfully? It's good to have some examples teed up, ready to go. Good communicators, good data processors, a computer lover versus fighter. I'm sure you're all technically savvy, way more so than me. It took us like half an hour, right, Jeff, to get the PowerPoint working. But that's important, right? Employers want that. And a good writer, we talked about communications, and an influencer, right? And so there's leadership qualities that you've probably developed in your classwork, maybe in student government, in organizations that you've been a part of. Those are great things, again, to be highlighting and demonstrating success. You led an initiative. You led a campaign on campus that resulted in some good results. Those kinds of things are important to highlight. And then remember what I said about connecting the dots. This is a place where I feel like a lot of job candidates fall down, is they prepare materials about themselves, but they don't connect it to what an employer needs and how they're going to help the employer. That is the job one in your materials and in your conversations with an employer is to talk about your skills in the context of what you understand that they're looking for and that they need. And you know that through your research, right? Through your research about that company. So paint that picture for an employer about what you can do for them and how you are excited to be a part of carrying forward their mission, that you're connected to that. Answer that question for them. That's what they're thinking. They're thinking, why should I hire you? Make that question part of your answers. Here's what I bring to this company. Here's why I think I'd be a good addition to your team. Be professional, that goes without saying. Remember, you're positioning yourself as a professional, not as a graduate. They know you're a graduate. They know you're right out of school. You want to position yourself as a professional, so you want to look the part, you want to talk the part, you want to have your business card, you want to have a fabulous package, you want to have your portfolio, really nicely organized. You want to look the part of that professional. And then be yourself. Part of your brand is what's authentic about you, about your passions, about your interests. Those are all great things to talk about and to make sure that shines through. That's how you can differentiate. So those are a few thoughts about branding, about your personal brand, and about what's important in a job search. And I would love to open it up and take a few questions. What's on your minds today?
I have a question.
Yes.
So a number of these students, I imagine a number of you will be coming to the partnership fair at the end of the month at the Spokane Convention Center. What are some things around personal branding you would recommend if you're faced with 100 employers that are tabling and making that 5-minute connection? I know the elevator speech is a part of it, but would you have some strategies for that?
That's a great question. Yeah, the elevator speech, definitely thinking about how you want to articulate what you're looking for. When I engage with students sometimes about their job search, people will say things to me like, well, I don't really know what I want. I'm really open to lots of different things. I'm just really want to learn about opportunities. Well, that may be true. That's good. That's actually a good thing to be open. But the signal that sends a prospective employer is that you don't know what you want. So I think it's great to kind of articulate when you're engaging with people and okay, this is a recruiter from Boeing, or this is a recruiter from Deloitte, that you, obviously you know what industry they're in. So articulate what you want, right? Articulate, well, I'm looking for, I'm an accounting major, I'm looking for a career in finance, and I really want to be a part of a company that has a strong vision and where I feel like I can really make a difference. That's good. That's good entryway into a conversation. And then ask them questions. What kinds of jobs are you recruiting for? What kinds of candidates are you looking for? What makes a successful candidate? So make sure that you keep that conversation going. They're going to remember you. If you have a meaningful conversation, even with a recruiter who's meeting lots of different people, you're going to stand out and give them a business card. Okay. Another question? Thank you. Thanks for your time and attention. Have a great afternoon.